Hello, hello. All right, so I just have a quick little announcement or update I would like to make. Let's start with this hair. So, if you missed the live that I did last weekend, what was that, last Saturday? I decided to roller set my handmade custom unit that I've shown you the versatility of the kinky curly hair extensions that I offer. So this hair has been custom colored. It is 3 bundles, 22, 20, and 18 inches with a closure. I have uh, sewn it on a couple different foundations because the hair extensions themselves have actually outlived the foundations, the wig caps that I put them on originally. Isn't that something? Shout out to the quality of the hair. But with that being said, I said afro, but the reality is I didn't want to cut the hair. Okay, so if I was to cut it, I could shape it into like an afro, but I know that eventually I'm gonna want to use this this unit, and wear it in its other styles that I'm able to wear it in. So I didn't want to cut it, but this is what it looks like. Once I took out the roller set and put a little bit of Hold spray on it and fingered the curls out, separate them a little bit. It's a little frizz, not too much. As I stated, the hair is pretty long, and just to show you an example, because this one, I keep trying to tuck it, but it wants to come back out. So, the hair is, long, but we're going to tuck that in there because we want to go short right now. All right, so I might pin it up and play with it a little bit before I wash the curls out and do something else with it. But I wanted something short with this color, with some texture and some body. I might use a pick or a teasing comb and make it bigger later, right before I change the style. But for now, I'm gonna just keep it like this, cute and classy. All right, so now that we're done talking about the hair, if you want to, book an appointment or, a consultation or shop Black Beautiful Looks Always Created Kindly, then you can do so at my website, the Empress Network, at empressblack.com. You can use the link tree, which can be found in the description of just about all my posts or videos that I upload on all the various platforms. You can also find the link tree, which is nicknamed the Master Key, in the bio section of all of the social media accounts: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even Twitter. I even, got back on Twitter after a couple years. I post here and there because there's no engagement or activity on that account, but it's there nonetheless. Even LinkedIn, I'm back on LinkedIn, y'all. All right, so I have an encouraging message here for somebody somewhere. So earlier today, when I woke up, I was feeling a little, and then thank you to the power call from the phenomenal brother Ben X, playing some good messages from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in regards to marriage and relationships. He had a compilation of different lectures that he's done over the years on the topic. So, me being a single, lovely lady out here, no children, never been married, I just, be focused on doing the right thing and taking care of myself and helping out my loved ones as much as I can, when I can, and so forth. But also just, growing and doing the best that I can with what I have to work with. So, with that being said, the last few years have been very challenging. I'm talking about obstacles left to right. You know, I don't want to get into too many details because I'm feeling good since I, shifted my perspective that I'm about to share with you. But yeah, I have most definitely have been going through some things and growing through some things, okay? Surviving, trying to thrive, yeah, all that. So, with that being said, um, I said, you know what? I know I got some bills coming up and I need to sit down and update my QuickBooks and get my financial documentation up to date because I have not been wanting to look at that here recently with how overwhelmed I've been with that part of my life, okay? Transparently. I'm telling you, this is for who it's for, so appreciate it if it's for you, okay? Because I don't be like the people all up in the business like this, but it is what it is. The Lord told me to put it on the table today. All right, so while I was updating my QuickBooks, categorizing all of my expenses that are shown up from, my business and my personal accounts and so forth. And I'm just looking at, what's going out versus what's coming in and feeling some type of way. The whole reason why I didn't want to sit down and, do this, okay? And then I said, you know what? The more I sat here and categorized the expenses and I looked at, the food category, food and beverages, as far as me grocery shopping and being able to prepare my meals and eating the foods that, I know that my body requires for me to stay, healthy and strong and vibrant and feeling my best, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, so that I can do what I need to do financially is important. So I had to take a moment to pause and be grateful for that, okay? And then the bills that even if they were paid late or even if I had, way too many overdraft fees, that I didn't want to look at, but they were there, okay? Those types of things, it frustrated me a little because it's like, why? Like, this is crazy. Like, as much information and wisdom that I have when it comes to matters dealing with finances and, money management and all that type of stuff. I mean, like, I'm managing my QuickBooks, I'm looking at my profit and loss statements and my balance sheets and, that type of stuff. And the fact that I have these skills to even know how to do this, I know how to pull up my Equifax, my TransUnion, and my Experian, and, check all of the different categories there to make sure everything is accurate, and when it's not, process the disputes that need to be processed, etc. So with all of this, being said, I'm sitting here like, okay, why is my income not reflecting what it should? Like, I know why, because I've gone through the things that I've been going through, and not really openly sharing, but so much until recently, which, you have to join me on Patreon or the Empress Network to get the behind the scenes bit that I did share, okay? But with that being said, managing that all and not pulling my hair out and not, losing 100 pounds that I can't afford and all that type of stuff, in the process, I need to be more proud of myself. So I had to, give myself a little pat on the back and say, you know what, you're not doing as bad as you could be, okay? You don't, when you drink, you're drinking water, okay? Maybe some tea, some coffee, some green smoothies, some fruit juices, no added sugar, no preservatives and stuff like that. You gave up the good grass because it got too questionable out here in this world, and you ain't about to sit here and be fed no fentanyl or nothing close to it type of stuff, and haven't looked back, okay, haven't been thinking about it, even when, you just been managing it all, sober minded, okay, me, that's what I've been doing, okay, pat on the back, those deserve some pats on both shoulders, okay? Been going to the gym and, doing as much as I can. I'm not necessarily lifting as heavy as I once was and, squatting as heavy as I used to and all that type of stuff, but, or walking and running at the pace and the distance as I was before dealing with stressful situations that impacted my health type of thing, but I'm still doing something, which is better than nothing, okay? I may not be quite as flexible, as I once was, but there's still some flexibility there, and it's still, more room to be more consistent and disciplined and even, get back to where I was, if not even more flexible, okay? More stronger, more filled with vitality, more, what you get from cardio, like long-winded, like I'm able to run and walk further and faster, and comfortably type of stuff, okay? So all of these things that I'm familiar with, I'm working towards again. And that's a lot to be grateful for. So back to the financial side of things, because that's very important for me, okay? I'm like, I got all these tools that I have not been using to the degree in which I know I should be. And who am I to, blame for that but myself, okay? So with that being said, I'm pulling out some of these tools and dusting, wiping the dust off, blowing the dust off, and making a decision to write it down. Okay, now I'm putting it in my phone and my laptop and computer and stuff, because how the hackers be hacking, I'm talking about the high level, 3-letter agencies type of hackers, all in your business type of stuff, I don't know, is there any hidden cameras around here that I haven't found? But either way, write it down. Like I used to, get back to the basics of being able to manifest, the phenomenal visions that God put within me to see, okay? Or in my mind's eye for me to see type of stuff. So getting back to that level of organization, okay? And just reminding myself that I have a lot to be grateful for. And, I do my best to refrain from complaining, but we're not talking about it at all because you're afraid that it's going to sound too much like complaining. It can build up and turn into frustration. And then that frustration can, turn into anger. And, that gets a little dangerous for all parties involved or people that are too close. So I, like to just kind of retreat and stay to myself to avoid, getting in any type of trouble. But with that being said, I'm leaving out of that space because God has really blessed me with, a great inner foundation, from all my life, my belief in my faith system and praying and believing in, the Most High God, okay, and the purpose that has been given to me for my life type of business, okay? So, for starters there, but also the people, the individuals who I know got my back. Like, it's something special about that. Let me take these glasses off real quick to emphasize that part. Okay. The ones that got my back, and that I know got my back. Because, see, the thing is, when the money's flowing, you know, your energy is popping, your frequency is high, your aura is, you know, exuding, you know, brilliance and excellence. You're a magnet for everything and everybody, you know, good, bad, ugly, and everything else, okay? So with that being said, you know, you don't know unless you find out who's really for you, who has your best interests at heart, you know, who's really down for you and not for the things that you have or the things that you have access to or the things that you're able to give and do for other people, you know. You don't know these things until life happens, you know, some jealous, envious haters, you know, that you don't even know and that don't even know you know, just come out of nowhere and just want to tarnish your name and your reputation, you know, for whatever reason, type of stuff. And then you have to find a way to not only get through that without hurting anybody or yourself, but then also, you know, bouncing back and, you know, the ones that matter, helping them to remember who you've always been and, you know, who you still are, and don't believe some fools that don't even know they self, because if they knew they self, they wouldn't be having time to be, you know, walking around, running around, riding around, driving around, however they get around, playing with your name, playing with your reputation, and that type of stuff. Self-aware people, they ain't got time for stuff like that. They got more important things to be worried about. But with that being said, you know, if you deal with me when it comes to the Empress Network and the spiritual work that I do, you know, the sacred success related work that I, you know, love so much, you know, because it's a big part of who I am and the success that I've had in my life. It's sacred for sure. I give God all the glory and the thanks for it all. Yes, he uses people, and I thank those people too. But I know, you know, you gotta have your heart in a certain place to even, you know, and let me be receptive to receive, you know, assistance, gifts, support, and, you know, engage with people, especially these days, okay? But all that said, you know, discernment was something that I needed to learn, you know, to see the truth in any given situation about, you know, any opportunity that's presented to me, any person who's, you know, in my life, like knowing what you know and being sure about it and standing on it confidently, that's priceless from my perspective. That's like of great value, like Walmart, okay? Okay. So with that being said, I don't take none of it lightly. Thank you to the liars, the backstabbers, the betrayers, you know, the greedy, the jealous, the envious. You know, thank you. Because you just made me that much more stronger, confident. And confident in the sense, not about, you know, the superficial, external things that people see and they assume that that's all there is to you, you know, that they like you for, or have this fake love for, you know, the external things, the, surface level you, the idea of you. But when it comes to the depths, when you go deep, people start running. Pew! They get scared. Hold up. Too honest. You can see too good. You heard what I said before I even said it. That scares people. Everybody can't handle that because everybody don't have the heart, the motives, the intentions, the integrity, the morality, all that. So, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for the people that I get to work with in this season, because I promise you, even when I don't be feeling like jumping on them Zoom meetings, and training and, staying dedicated and focused on, the legacy, learning. We got financial literacy, but then there's this legacy learning side of things that I've been diving deep into, investing a great deal of time in behind the scenes. And, the people that I'm connected with through that, the directness, the maturity, the experience, the realness is what I be needing. It's what I be needing, and I'm grateful that I'm getting that. Okay, home team, I appreciate y'all. Y'all know who y'all are. If you just so happen to scroll past and see this, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. And y'all know I only thank God like that. I hope this word helps somebody somewhere. If you haven't done yet, make sure you go ahead and check out the Empress Network at empressblack.com. Hit the login to log in, create a login. If you haven't yet, check out all the different offerings that I have. A lot of people know me, primarily for hair and, hair extensions and custom wigs and, that type of stuff, that part of my business and that part of what I do. But there's so much more, okay? There's a lot more to me and what I have to offer, and it isn't nothing sexual or intimate and, what a lot of people have misunderstood because of how I look type of thing. And their, unhealthy projections, okay, have categorized me as being, titles and names that ain't got nothing to do with me and who I am, what I represent, what I live for, what I strive for, nothing. I had to throw that in here. It matters. All right. Thank you.